Kier Starmer's one in, one out. Or, to put it better than that, the government's failed immigration policy and border control policies hit another brick wall yesterday. And it looks like the stalemate is going to be going on for months yet. So there's a big failure there. But we all knew it was going to be a failure. But within this, I think we get solid proof that Kier Starmer knew it wasn't going to work. He knew that all of this was going to happen, and he's in essence been lying to the country since he's come into power. We all knew that, but I think we have proof now.
One in, one out. That's what the government told us. For everyone that crosses the channel, we're going to send them back, and then the French will send us somebody else that's been approved for asylum. Well, flights were booked on Air France. The first flight, would you believe, the lawyers intervened using our old friend, the ECHR, and no one left. The second flight, journalists found out what the plane was. Four of them, four separate media companies booked on the flight, and guess what? All the migrants that were due to go had legal challenges and didn't go. We've sent a plane full of journalists with no migrants whatsoever. And even if the policy worked, one in, one out, and another one in still means +1 for everyone that crosses the channel. Please do not take seriously anything this government says about dealing with illegal immigration. They're not telling you the truth.
No, they're not telling us the truth. That was correct there. And a brilliant synopsis there from Nigel Farage, who generally hits the nail on the head with all of this type of stuff. But this is an easy win for Nigel because this government is so inept and so bad as to make any opposing politician look like a genius. But when he was talking there, he was talking about legal challenges, and we often hear about this legal challenge and this human rights lawyer, etc. But specifically, what was the reason why, whichever, I think it was a chap on there, what was the reason why this person wasn't allowed to be deported to another country? And here is an explanation from a human rights lawyer of all people, so he's going to know, this man here, and it was on GB News, and he attempted to explain this complicated human rights mess to a couple of presenters, and I think he failed miserably. But when you're listening to this chap, you have to understand how human rights lawyers are so brilliant at tying people in knots, and just check this out.
How is it that you can stop somebody going across to France on a plane, and why would their life be in danger? It's all about fairness. Every process has to be fair, from selecting the individual, how you define it inadmissible under the one in, one out policy, but also about the mechanisms in place in France. And I'm really surprised the government didn't put those mechanisms in place, because that's exactly the reason that the Rwanda plan was struck down. And so if I was the government, I would have had those mechanisms in place, had policies and procedures so that they can be presented to the court if people did make a judicial review. So there's one fundamental problem, is that while we're members of the Refugee Convention, and that's the principle of non-refoulement, that they may then go on to face persecution, be removed to their own country. And while we're members of the European Convention on Human Rights, nobody is going to be sent to France on this one in, one out policy.
They can't face persecution in France.
No, you're not understanding what I'm saying. You've got to show that you've got a mechanism for these individuals that their asylum claims will be considered in France. We haven't got that. There is no mechanism. And, if France simply just accepts them and then removes them themselves without having a fair asylum claim, then that will be unlawful. Remember, what the Supreme Court said in Rwanda was this, is that you cannot subcontract your obligations under the treaty, under the 51 treaty. But if you do, you must have a mechanism in place so wherever they're going to, they're having a fair asylum claim. The government haven't done that. I'm quite astonished. They haven't learned anything from the failures of the Conservative government in the Rwanda plan.
So an excellent description there from the immigration lawyer, human rights lawyer, whatever you want to call him. I think, as a general rule, we can group all of these people into the category of snivelling cretins. I think that's the best way to describe these people. But you saw there how he was tying the presenters in knots, and you get a feel for what happens when these people go to court and they start with their oratory arguments. I mean, it's enough to send you to sleep almost immediately, never mind argue with these people. But within that, he did give you the information, and he said, there is no mechanism in France being placed by the government for France to accept the migrants. Okay. Well, you would have thought that Kier Starmer might have had his finger on the button of that. He may have known about that, and particularly in light of this. So, as this article here says, Kier Starmer authored the manual. So, our Prime Minister helped write the guide and the European Convention on Human Rights in 1999. So you would imagine if anybody in Britain is going to know that you have to have a legal mechanism in order for France to accept these migrants that we're sending back in this one in, one out, then you would have to say that this Prime Minister is lying to us when he says he wants to stop the small boats and people are going to be deported. He knew, of all people he knows, that there wasn't the correct legislation put in place. And now this is going to be delayed by months. It says weeks on this article here, but probably months, probably longer, while everything gets rewritten. So what's the truth here? Well, the truth is that this Labour Party have absolutely no intention whatsoever of deporting anybody. Kier Starmer knew the rules. He knew it wouldn't work. He helped write the book on it. And he would have known, as the immigration lawyer pointed out on the interview on GB News. He's been lying to us, telling us that he's going to deport people, telling us that you can't just enter Britain illegally. The Labour Party generally agree with this policy. There's no one on the Labour benches that seems to want to stick their head above the parapet and say all of this is going horribly wrong. This is just red meat for reform, and at some point this is going to come crashing down around Kier Starmer's head, but at this stage he is married to this open borders policy. There's no escaping it, and whilst Labour are in power, they're going to dance around this issue, and things aren't going to get any better. But it's the British taxpayer that foots the bill for Mr. Starmer's ideology, because every time you see one of those migrants coming across to this country, it costs the British taxpayer in the first year somewhere in between £40,000 and £45,000. So when you see the figure of 500 arrived, I'll let you do the calculations. I've done it many times on this channel. But this policy is completely unsustainable in the long run. There's no way we can continue to do this, particularly when this country is on the verge of bankruptcy. I mean, the whole thing is lunacy in my opinion, but this is the government we've got until 2029, I'm afraid. Thanks very much for your time.